Hello class, welcome to IT368. This video intends to help you um, in completing the hands-on part of your final project. Okay, so in Unit 4, you started with a proposal, and in the proposal, I'll advise students to select a type of project that you can implement with Azure, and either one under a Windows operating system or Linux-based operating system. And I asked them to focus in a specific type of solutions and system application solutions. So two ideas that came related, one to a learning management system, and you can work with different open source and Linux. And the other one was related to a healthcare system. And there are plenty of well-known open source that run on Linux. And one of the reasons why using Linux is because the cost in running on Azure or in any cloud provider is going to be lower than running one with Microsoft. So if you want to run, you're going to be charged on the credit that you receive from Microsoft as a student, and you want to maximize the use of that credit. So that's another reason why you should select Linux. So this video intends to help you with that. In the final project, we need to continue what you started on week 4, specifically in the implementation. At least you should describe the process to implement your solution. And basically, in working with the cloud, you're going to use infrastructure as a service. You're going to create a virtual machine. In that virtual machine, you're going to install a Linux operating system. And then you're going to follow the solution provider, in this case, the organization that develops the solution that you selected, to install that system. So, for instance, Moodle, the organization, provides a step-by-step procedure to implement Moodle on Ubuntu. So a student can go and follow that to describe the process. And similarly, if you look at another system, such as a healthcare system, the student can look at the specific instructions from the vendor or the organization that develops the solution to describe the implementation process. Hopefully you will be able to do it in Azure, and then you can place also snapshots of your project. Okay, so let's start with. Okay, first you need to be sure that on your Azure portal you are using the proper subscription. That will be the student subscription. Okay. And then what we need to work is connect to the Azure shell, because we're going to work first with the shell in order to create the SSH requirements to connect with the Linux machine. Okay, so I'm going to switch my video up to off because I have the instructions here. I won't be moving my head. Okay, but we're going to work with that first with that SSH, and then the next step will be deploying the Linux image, and then following the specific instruction from the vendor, where I'm going to provide an example, and that's what you need to work with. So let's start working. Okay, first we're going to type this command, and this command is going to allow us to create the minimum necessary requirements to create an SSH protocol to RSA public-private key pair. Okay, and we're going to, the minimum is 2048. We're going to duplicate that to provide a better security. Okay, so go ahead and type that and then press enter. And that will create the key, and it's going to create also folders. You can see there that is .ssh and /id _ RSA. Okay, so that's important to work with. So if we want to look at, we can go and type ls. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the name of the file, I just type ls. I made a mistake here. So that will be the name of the file. And then the paraphrase, um, it should have, you know, it should have been a different name, but we can change that name later on. So the paraphrase, we're going to use something simple. We're going to use um, capital P at SSW0RD. You can use something else if you want to, okay? Um, and then we're going to press enter, okay? And you need to re-enter the key, okay? And there you go. That's the key, okay? Um, so here is where we can press ls, and then we can see the ls. That's an ls pop, okay? So this is the name of the files. Um, that it could be any file, but in this case ls, okay. Then if we want to see the content of the file, we can type the cat command. So cat ls dot pop, and you see all the content of the file, okay. So that's the ssh. And then what we need to do here now is we need to create a virtual machine. Okay, so that will be next. Okay, so remember that I mentioned that we are going to work with, first, we're going to create a SSH connection to. Two, we're going to create the virtual machine. And three, we're going to configure this virtual machine. Four, we're going to install the solution. Okay, so whichever is your solution. So in this case, management alerting system, health system, and so on and so forth. So the key in working with, well, install the solution. First, install the OS, and then the solution, okay? So the key will be here in the OS is you need to be sure that you select the OS that your solution will use, okay? So for instance, if I want to implement Moodle in Ubuntu, then I can see the step-by-step installation guide. Here the requirements are Ubuntu 20.04, if I and then PHP 7.4. If I don't find that, then I need to go and perhaps find the closest to these, hopefully the closest to these, and it still can run everything. Ideally, you want to find the version where matches the images that are provided in the cloud system, okay? So going back to here, we're going to create a virtual machine. So Linux virtual machine. Oops, we don't want that. That's the tutorial. So we want to go to virtual machines here. Okay, and then we're going to add the virtual machine. Okay, so just scroll down these. Don't close the shell, even though we can go back. So we're going to create a new resource center. So in this case, I'm going to MLS resource center. Excuse me. Learning management system, or in general any system. Okay, so that will be the new the virtual machine name. Oops, I didn't. So it's going to be learning management system RS. Okay. Virtual machine, I'm going to just call it LMS U1 for Ubuntu 1, East of United States. I'm going to use the default options in availability. So here is the part that, I need to look. So notice that the images that exist, I have only Ubuntu 8.16 and 18. There's no 20, so I can go with 18, or perhaps I can look at if in the documentation they have the previous version. Okay, so this is for, let's say, if we want to go back to 3.9, still 20, we go to 3.5. Okay, so this is 16. So let me see if we go back to 8. So 3.8, this uses 18.04. So this is this one. Okay. So here, notice that this is another important part. So we're going to take a look at, pick the 8 gigs of memory. Okay. So notice that here is SSH public key authentication type. You can also opt for the password if you want. Okay. So if it's much simpler for you, let's try this. So we're going to work with student, and then the password, the complex password, but write it down. Okay, otherwise you will have problems. Okay. Allow SSH, yes. Okay. Then we go to disks. And here we need to work slightly different because we need to create the disks. Okay. Different than Microsoft that you can go. So we need to create and attach a new disk. Okay. This is okay. Okay. Okay, so this is the size of the disks, premium. Here you can change it if you don't, if this is too big, for instance, you know that it's going to be too big and you want to do something smaller because you know that you're not going to use that much, you can change it. Also, you can use a standard HDD, and you can see the different size here. So you can go and change, for instance, 256, or you can go back to a standard SSD, and then 256 or 512. Okay, so then you click OK, and you click OK one more time, and then you move to networking. Okay, so this is how it's going to automatically be generated. Okay, including SSH. So we're going to use default options here. We go to next management. So we're going to make it this simple. So we're going to disable monitoring. And here, I think we can just go ahead and click review and create. So it's going to go and look for a validation. It's going to check everything. And then if everything is okay, we're going to be able to create the virtual machine. Okay, so that's the cost. And then you just click create. Okay, so the deployment is in process. Okay, we can go to the resource, and here we can connect. We can go SSH. Okay. Okay, we're going to rerun the command. The first time, if you follow me, I type it ls by mistake, okay? And that save it in a different location, the file. So we are rerunning this, okay? You are going to just press enter to accept the default location and then type the password, okay? Remember to write down this password. You need to repeat that, and then the proper location is going to be created. Okay, so this is important. Otherwise, we're going to have problems with it. Okay, so the proper location is now we're going to copy the SSH key that we created to the new virtual machine. Okay, a summary. Okay, run again the command, accept the default location. You will just need to press enter. Type the password. You need to type it again, write down that, and that will create the SSH. Okay. Then I try to follow here the copy process, but failed. So first, I try to use this is the name of the virtual machine, but we haven't configured DNS, so it cannot be resolved. Then I tried to use the private IP, and it didn't work. Okay, so where that information is found, the name, the computer name or host name. So here in the main properties of the virtual machine, notice that this is the computer name. Okay, and here you're going to find the private IP and the public IP. Okay, so one more time, didn't work with the computer name because DNS, didn't work with the private IP, okay, and then last I used the public IP. Okay, so in the public IP, that is the one that is at the end, you notice that here it was successful. Okay, so this is the command. So you need to do something similar. Okay, this first part is going to be the same because you use the default locations when you created the key. This is going to be the user that you type it when you created the virtual machine, okay, and install the operating system at the public IP address that will be here on the virtual machine overview. Okay, you press enter. The copy will go. Okay, you will say yes or no. Say yes. Okay, and then it's going to ask for the password. Okay, so you need to type the password and press enter. Now, the password that you're going to type is the password of the user when you created the virtual machine. Okay, and be careful. Like for instance, here I type it too quick that I made a mistake. You won't be able to see the characters. Okay, and then the second time I typed the password properly, the key was copied. And after the key is copied, now you can connect by just, they will provide an example, SSH student at the IP address. So now I can connect student at 104.211.5.95. Okay. Oops. Oh, of course, SSH. Okay. Now, this is the phrase that you use when you created the SSH key. Okay, now I'm connected to the virtual machine. Okay, at this point, I can attempt to follow this, and if I don't have many problems, then I will be able to install the system. Okay, but we'll see. So up to this point, you should be able to work with. Okay, so describe the process one more time. Okay, describe the process. Create the SSH. Okay. There is notice that there is a web page here that walk you through. Okay. You can take a look at here. You can search it. The first step. The second step, create a virtual machine, Linux virtual machine. You can also create a Linux virtual machine in Azure. Okay. So major steps. Okay. One, the SSH key. Two, the virtual machine using a Linux image, such as Ubuntu, Red Hat, CentOS. That will depend of the system that you're going to implement. Okay. So it's important that you have the documentation, such as this one here. Okay. Next, you go and install the virtual machine, and then you copy the SSH keys. Okay. And the way that you copy is by typing this command. Okay, of course, you need to replace this by the user that you use when you created the virtual machine and the public IP address that is listed on the virtual machine information, the overview. Okay, whichever is the one that has been assigned to you. You will go with, you're going to be able to type first the password of the user, so the file can be copied, and then you connect with this password, the user that you use to create the virtual machine, or the user that you created when you created the virtual machine at the public IP address. Okay, and then you're going to be connected. And from here, just follow the instructions. So the first thing that the instructions say that I should install VIM, that is a text editor, much easier to use. Okay, so it's already installed, so I can move on. The second is to install packages. So I need to install sudo install Apache to my SQL client, my SQL server, PHP, and this option for Apache. Okay, and then press enter. Say yes to install everything. Okay. So there are some failures here. Let's see. So there are some that you weren't able to find. So we're going to apt sudo apt get update. Okay, that is going to force an update of the software for Ubuntu. It's going to take some time, but we don't have another option. Let's see. No, it's just update one more time. Okay. And let's see if after that we can install this. Okay, now it's going. You can see. Okay, so installing all the packages. just need to wait. Okay, now we need to run my sudo mysql secure installation. Now, this is very important. Here we're going to set the root password for SQL. You must write this down. Okay, and be careful when you key in. So we're going to just press enter. Okay, so connect it to MySQL using a blank password. No, you can read the so we're going to press enter, new password. Okay, so please write it down. Remove anonymous user, yes. All yes. Okay. Now we're going to install a bunch of additional software. So I'm going to type it and you can go ahead and pause the video and then type it yourself. Okay, so that's the list. Okay. So if you want to follow this, you can also go to the Moodle installation page. If you go back to the video, you will reach that point. You know, I'm copying that from that page. And then I will press enter, and that will install all those packages, hopefully with no error. That's the challenge when they're doing pre-installations. Sometimes you may face errors, and then you need to go and fix that out. So that's the hardest work, perhaps. But if you're using everything that the guide uses, then you should be successful. It's true many times, but sometimes it is not. Okay. Okay. Here we're going to restart the Apache service. Okay. And then we're going to start Git. This will allow us to copy Moodle, the core application. Okay. 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 So now we need to download Moodle. So we will change directory to OPT. And here is where we're going to go and get the Moodle Git by typing this command. Okay, and press enter. So that will copy the whole core of Moodle from that website, git.moodle.org/moodle.git. It's a whole folder that is being downloaded. Okay, so it's going to take some time. You just need to wait for that. Okay, now we need to change directory to Moodle. So cd Moodle. Okay. Then we're going to get one of the branches, something that was copied. Okay. So that's the list of branches. So press Q to quit. And then we are going to tell which branch we're going to use. Okay, and this is, let's see if this works. This is the one that the documentation is proposing. Okay. Next, we're going to check out that specific version. Okay, so it seems that everything is okay up to this point. Now we're going to copy what we configure to the directory of Apache, that is the web service. Okay, so we're going to use the copy command. Okay, the R is going to allow us to copy folders and files or directories and files from this location that we are working right now to the default location of the Apache directory. That is this one here. Press enter. Okay, now we need to change some permissions on the data that we copied. Okay, otherwise we will have problems. So this is change ownership, the change ownership command, and that's what we're going to change. Okay, let me see. Okay, so this is from the guide. To say that cannot access this directory. Oh, I missed one line. First, we need to create that directory. Okay, that will make directory, that will create a directory. Now we can change the permissions. Okay. Excuse me, that's change ownership. So we can change ownership, and this is going to change the permissions. This is all permissions, read, write, and execute. Okay, in the three modes, user, group, and other. And finally, we're going to change one more time the mode. Okay. Now we need to set up the database next. So we are going to access with the VI editor the configuration file for the MySQL set. So we need to go to default storage engine. So we need to look at that. So we need to go to basic settings. Let's go up. Basic settings. So it should be here. Okay, so we're supposed to add this. So you need to press the insert key and then you can type. Okay. And then you need to click escape. And then colon, right for saving. And then Q for quit. We need to restart the SQL database. Okay. And then we need to log into the database. Okay. And you use the password that I told you to write it down. And here we need to create a database for Moodle. That is going to be called Moodle. Okay. Check spelling. Press enter. See, error. So, okay. So I think you already. Okay. Next, we are going to the user. So we're going to leave, this is the user. We're going to leave it. Moodle dude. Okay, if you want, you can type Moodle admin. Okay, and this is the password. So careful with this. In a real life, it must be secure. But this is for a class and a test, so we're going to use that. Okay, so Moodle admin. And just in case I forget that, I'm going to capture this part so I will remember. Okay, then press enter. And the next one is going to grant all the permissions to the new user. Okay, so here we need to change this for Moodle admin, and then type the proper password. Okay, and press enter. And then we can quit. Let's go on, see if we can continue without problems. So we are going to run this to complete the setup. Okay, no change of permissions. And here, let's see if we can access, because your virtual machine is on the public, is live. So we're going to copy this. Let's see if we can access. If not, we will need to go back and troubleshoot. Perhaps the configuration of the virtual machine is not allowing access to HTTP. We'll need to work with that if this gets an error. Okay, cannot be reached, most likely because it's networking. So notice here that we are only allowing 422. Okay, so we are going to allow well, in this case, just for HTTP. Okay. We need to wait for the system to add that rule. Okay, we can see that was added. Let's see if we can access now. One more time. Okay, so we're in Moodle, we're live. Okay, so at this point we need to go with the Moodle settings. So here you will need to go on, that's we are not using DNS at this point. We can change it later on if this were real. That's going to be the directory on the Linux server. Oops. Okay, so it's not readable. So we need to make this directory readable. I thought that we did it. Okay, so let's go back to the shell. Oops. And I think this, okay, but they want that to be readable. Okay, so let's try one more time. Okay, so the database, that would be okay. Okay, so in a real life, the database user perhaps is not going to be the one that we're going to use here. It's going to be a different user because this is the root. Okay. They just click next. Okay, so let's see what failed. Oh no, this is not root. This is the password that we created. Remember that the user that we created, and I copy the image. Okay, so it will be Moodle admin, and that the password is correct. Here is going to be Moodle admin. Okay, and then click next. Okay, so far so good. So we can confirm and continue. Okay, everything is okay, everything is okay. Okay, so this is just a warning. They're telling us that we should use HTTPS. That is true, but for now, it's okay for us. It has the minimum requirements. Continue. This is going to take some time. Okay, so hopefully everything will be successful. This is a kind of test of all the different modules. So it will keep running and running and running. So it will take a few minutes. Okay. Seems that everything was successful. Let's click continue. Okay, so this is the admin, and then later on you can do the accounts, but this is the administrator. So the Moodle administrator. So this is all the information about the user. So I'm going to just admin at Moodle test.local. Going to Atlanta. Okay. Let's see. The front page. So let's see. News Academy. News A. Okay, I'm not going to do anything here. That's okay. Um, okay. Require. I agree. Well, we're going to skip this. Okay, and this is the dashboard. So this is, no, the administrator can now start configuring Moodle. Okay, so this demonstrate that Moodle has been successfully installed. And let's see if we can open a new page. Well, because I'm logged here, I'm redirecting to that automatically. Okay, but so these, see, there are no courses right now. Okay, um, I'm I'm looking if I can find template that we can use. But perhaps that is going to make it a little bit complicated. At least this is going to demonstrate that you were able to complete the installation of Moodle using cloud provider, in this case, Microsoft Azure. Okay. So I hope that the video will help you. Now, I'm going to still be okay if you use the video and you describe the steps in order to deploy a system in Microsoft Azure. I will strongly, strongly advise you to do it by yourself. Strongly advise you, okay? Because this is what in real you will need to do to deploy a system. In this case, in this example, a very well-known learning management system, Moodle. But you can do the same with any type of system running on Windows or Linux that you want to explore and play in a cloud environment. Okay. Now, very important. Okay, as I have mentioned before, when you do this, okay, if you still want to explore the virtual machine, let's go back here, virtual machines. Your main virtual machine, like this one here. So notice that this is running, okay? You need to stop it. Now, sometimes when you work with the virtual machine and you stop a virtual machine and you start again the virtual machine, it's no guarantee that everything will be working, but that's the learning process, okay? Now, why you want to stop the virtual machine is because if you leave it running, your credit is going to start paying for the virtual machine, okay? I usually tell students to, erase everything related to the resource group, and then the virtual machine. So your credit is not taken from. But in this case, will be up to you, okay? But at least shut down the virtual machine, okay? So it is not running. Okay, so notice here, still is like a, yes, I want to stop it. Or perhaps was in the process of shutting down and I just, yeah. So if I refresh these, yes, notice that now I need to stop, okay? So you should be able to write a summary of how to implement a system using Azure, in this case, a Linux-based system, okay? Thank you guys. I will see you in the next video.